Hello and welcome again to another video. Today we'll be talking about the first thesis in our course, Theology and Philosophy of Religion. And the thesis reads, for religious non-realism, God is a false, or at least a doubtful concept. As a human creation, religion is essentially functionalist, constructed to address psychological needs, according to Freud, and social needs, according to Durkheim, and it is rooted in an innate survival mechanism, according to Dennett. When we ask the question, where did God come from? There are two different ways to answer. The first is religious realism. This is the view that God exists objectively, independently of us, like a table or a mountain. God is there whether we believe in Him or not. But today we'll be looking at the second view, religious non-realism. This view argues that God is a concept created by humans. It suggested that if humans vanished tomorrow, God would vanish too, because He is a projection of our needs. The main argument here is functionalism. We created religion because it does something for us. It serves a function. Today we'll be looking at the three masters of suspicion, or reductionists, who explain exactly what that function is: Sigmund Freud, Emil Durkheim, and Daniel Dennett. Let's start with the mind. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, called religion a universal obsessional neurosis of humanity. His argument is simple. God is a wish fulfillment. Think of it this way. When you are a child, you are helpless. You rely on your father for protection, for food and security. You fear him, but you also trust him. But then you grow up, you realize your earthly father is just a human. He gets sick, he dies, yet you still feel helpless. You still face sickness, earthquakes, and the terrifying certainty of death. So what does the adult do? It regresses. It longs for that childhood security. So it projects a heavenly Father into the sky, one who is all-powerful and can protect you from nature and death. Freud called this an illusion. Be careful with that word. An illusion isn't necessarily a delusion, which is a belief that clearly contradicts reality, like thinking you are made of glass. An illusion is a belief born from a wish, like a poor girl imagining a prince will marry her. It's unlikely, but it's driven by her desire. For Freud, religion is a defense mechanism. It soothes our anxiety, but he argues we need an education to reality. We need to grow up, throw away the clutch, and face the indifferent universe with science and reason. Heading on to the second person, Emil Durkheim. If Freud looked inward at the mind, Emil Durkheim looked outward at society. He studied the Arunta tribes of Australia and their practice of botanism. A totem is just an emblem, like a crow or a kangaroo, that represents the clan. Durkheim noticed that when the clan gathers for rituals, the energy shifts. People kept swept in a frenzied dancing, feeling a power greater than themselves. He calls this energy collective effervescence. Think of a rock concert or a intense sport like rugby. You feel a force in the crowd that makes you do the things you wouldn't do alone. You feel part of something huge. Primitive people felt this force, but they didn't know it was just a crowd psychology. They thought this power was coming from the totem they were dancing around. So the totem became sacred. The totem became God. But remember, the totem is just a symbol for the clan. Therefore, Durkheim concludes, God is society divinized. When you worship God, you are unconsciously worshiping your own society. This serves a vital function, social cohesion. It keeps the group united. The laws of God are actually just the rules of society to keep you in line. And moving on to the third person in our list is Daniel Dennett with the survival instinct. Finally, we move to the biological view with Daniel Dennett. He argues that religion is a byproduct of evolution, specifically our brain's wiring. Imagine your ancestors walking in the jungle. He hears a rustle. If he thinks just the wind, but it's actually a tiger, he gets eaten. If he thinks it's a tiger, but it's just the wind, he survives. Evolution favors the paranoid. Dennett calls this the hyperactive agent detection device, also known as the HADD. We are hardwired to see agents, things with minds and intentions everywhere. We see faces in clouds, we hear voices in the wind. Daniel Dennett says that religion is this instinct misfiring. We look at the complex universe and our HADD says, who made this? We assume there must be a giant agent, namely God, running the show. So this belief spreads through memes. Just as genes replicate in bodies, memes replicate in minds. If a tribe believes in a God who watches them, they might cooperate better and survive longer than a tribe that doesn't. The belief persists, not because it's true, but because it helps the survival of the fittest. So upon looking about these three persons, we come to the valuation of their views, of their theories. So are these theories the final nail in the coffin for religion? Not necessarily. While they offer powerful insights, they suffer from two major logical flaws. The first flaw, the genetic fallacy. This is the era of confusing the origin of a belief with its truth. Imagine you learn that the earth is a sphere from a grandmother who dropped out of school. The source of the belief is uneducated, but the belief itself remains true. Even if our belief comes from God, even if our belief in God comes from a psychological need or a brain mutation, that doesn't prove God doesn't exist. It just explains why we might be wired to find Him. The second flaw is reductionism. These theories reduce a complex phenomena to a single function. Freud says God is just a pacifier. Durkheim says God is just society. Dennett says God is just a survival trick. But believers would argue that the reality of God cannot be reduced to its usefulness. Water is useful. We need it to survive. But that doesn't mean water is just a psychological projection. It really exists. The non-realist's perspective teaches us that religion serves two human needs, for comfort, for community, and for survival. It forces believers to ask, do I believe in God because He is real, or just because I need a grudge? But for the realist, the fact that we have a hunger for the infinite might just mean that there is real food somewhere to satisfy it. Thank you for listening.